Turns out divorce papers make a terrible Tiffany substitute, but a $2.8 million inheritance? That's the ultimate revenge accessory. Picture this, my 40th birthday dinner at Mastro's Steakhouse in Scottsdale. Me, hair freshly highlighted at Madison Reed, waiting for my husband of 11 years to arrive. The waiter kept my Belvedere martini topped up while I checked my watch for the 4th time. Lawson finally wandered in 42 minutes late, wearing that smirk that once made my knees weak but now just triggered my acid reflux. Sorry, babe. Conference call ran long. He slid into the booth, still flashing that salesman smile, the same one that had closed countless software deals and convinced me 11 years ago that he was husband material. Cue the Hallmark music? Not quite. Lawson placed a small blue box on the table. That unmistakable Tiffany shade that makes every woman's heart skip. Mine certainly did until I opened it. What is this? I asked, staring at legal papers where diamond earrings should have been. Divorce papers, Lawson said, signaling the waiter for a scotch. Lucille, you're too old for me now. I need someone who, I don't know, still makes an effort. Was working 60-hour weeks as a financial analyst while he floundered through 5 failed startups not effort enough? Was keeping our credit score above 800 despite his Tesla impulse purchase not effort enough? Was maintaining a BMI of 23 despite stress-eating Trader Joe's cookie butter by the spoonful not effort enough? The restaurant suddenly felt airless. Around us, couples clinked wine glasses. A birthday celebration 2 tables over erupted in off-key singing. And there I sat on my 40th birthday, being served divorce papers by the man who had vowed till death do us part at Four Seasons Scottsdale. Camelback Mountain as our witness. Funny thing, Lawson. I took a deep breath and grabbed his Mont Blanc pen, the one I'd bought him for Christmas. First thoughtful gift you've given me in years. His cocky expression faltered. He expected tears, a begging montage, the whole please don't leave me performance you see in movies he thinks represent real life. Instead, I uncapped the pen and signed every flagged page while keeping eye contact. Thank you for the present? Wait, that's it? Lawson's perfectly whitened teeth stopped mid-gleam. What did you expect? A scene from Real Housewives of Scottsdale? Sorry to disappoint. I took a deliberate sip of my martini, savoring both the vodka burn and his confusion. Lawson assumed a woman turning 40 would automatically panic about dying alone with cats. His plan hinged on me being so terrified of starting over that I'd negotiate, beg for another chance, or settle for terrible alimony terms to avoid the stigma of being divorced. What he didn't factor in was my Aunt Estelle Barrett, my mother's eccentric older sister, had lived her best unmarried life as a pharmaceutical executive at Merck. At 58, she cashed out her stock options, told corporate America to kiss her sensibly clad feet, and bought a quinta in Portugal's Alentejo region. For 14 years, she lived among olive groves and vineyards, sending me 3 a.m. philosophical emails about Portuguese wine and Venmoing me $200 every birthday with the note, "Buy something frivolous, darling." What Lawson couldn't have known, and what I didn't realize during that birthday dinner, was that Aunt Estelle had passed away quietly in her sleep 19 days earlier, on May 24th. While I was signing away my marriage, her estate was already being processed by international attorneys. So that's really it. You're not going to fight me on this? Lawson looked genuinely disappointed. The man had rehearsed arguments in his head, prepared for my emotional breakdown, and I'd stolen his dramatic moment. Lawson, you just told me I'm too old for you. What exactly would I be fighting for? The privilege of watching you have a midlife crisis up close, the front row seat to your inevitable hair plugs and leather bracelet phase. No thank you. He signaled for another scotch, visibly recalibrating. Well, okay then. My lawyer will contact yours about asset division, the house, the investment accounts. We'll need to liquidate most of it. And there it was, the real reason behind the birthday ambush, our marital assets. The 4-bedroom Ganny Ranch house we'd bought when the market dipped. The investment portfolio I'd carefully managed to a 12% annual return, while he blew his commissions on golf weekends at True North. The Roth IRA, the emergency fund, The 5 on 29 plan we'd optimistically started for kids we never had. Fair division? I nodded, sliding the signed papers back across the table. Communal property laws apply. What's ours is ours. Lawson relaxed, flashing a victorious smile. My lawyer will be in touch about the house sale. Perfect, I said, standing and smoothing my theory dress. I'll need a new place anyway. Something with a view, maybe. Don't get ahead of yourself, Lucy, he chuckled. Housing market's insane right now. You might want to look into those new apartments by the mall. More your budget after we split everything. I placed a 50 on the table for my drinks. Happy birthday to me. Enjoy your scotch. It's on me. Like the last 11 years of your life. Walking out of Mastro's that night, I felt strangely light. The Arizona summer heat hit me like a wall as I stepped outside. But instead of wilting, I took a deep breath of desert air. Palm trees swayed against the darkening sky. And for the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Relief. I didn't yet know about Aunt Estelle's passing. I didn't know about the inheritance making its way through international banking systems. I just knew that somehow, at 40, I was being handed a blank slate. My phone pinged as I reached my car. A text from my best friend Olivia. How's the birthday dinner? Did he finally get you those diamond studs you've been hinting at? I laughed out loud in the parking lot. Not exactly. I typed back, he got me freedom. Drinks at your place in 20. What? I'll open the emergency VVE. Front door unlocked. Get here now. As I drove across Scottsdale toward Olivia's boutique owner bachelorette pad, I had no idea that the universe was about to hand me the most satisfying revenge plot I'd never planned. In exactly 12 days, on June 24th, I'd receive a call that would change everything. My soon-to-be ex-husband's face contorting in ways I'd cherish forever when he discovered what had happened. All I knew as I pulled into Olivia's driveway was that I was 40, getting divorced, and somehow inexplicably excited about what came next. The best revenge wasn't even on my radar yet. But oh, was it coming? Olivia's condo was my sanctuary that night. Sleek white furniture, abstract art that probably cost more than my car. As a successful boutique owner dressing half of Scottsdale's ladies who lunch, she had both taste and income for the finer things. And right now, she was pouring me a glass of champagne that cost more than the special occasion bottle Lawson and I had kept in our fridge for 3 years. He did not serve you divorce papers in a Tiffany box. That's next-level sociopathic, Olivia declared, handing me the crystal flute. Though I'm not surprised. This is the same man who gave you a Peloton for your anniversary after you mentioned wanting a weekend at Canyon Ranch. I took a long sip. He said I'm too old for him now. Apparently turning 40 means I've crossed some invisible line into senior citizenship. The audacity. Olivia's perfect blowout shook with indignation, especially considering he's balding faster than a tire on the I-17. What's his plan exactly? Trade you in for a 25-year-old SoulCycle instructor? Probably, I sighed. He's been making those comments lately. You know, wow, that waitress must still be in college. Or don't you wish we had the energy of those hikers? Meanwhile, he gets winded carrying groceries from the garage. The champagne was hitting just right, the perfect buzz that made everything slightly funny. Even your life imploding. What does this mean financially? Olivia asked, ever practical despite her flair for drama. Arizona is a community property state, right? Yep. 50-50 split of everything acquired during the marriage. The house, investments, his 401k growth, my pension contributions, 11 years of accumulation, down the middle. And you're the financial analyst, she pointed out. You literally handled all your investments, I smirked. Ironic, isn't it? I'd spent a decade optimizing our portfolio while he bought golf clubs that cost as much as a used car. I refilled my glass. But hey, rules are rules. Half is fair, fair. After you financially carried him through those startup disasters. Remember Snackmate? The app that was supposed to connect people with leftover restaurant food? Olivia snorted. You funded that catastrophe. Snackmate was just one of Lawson's entrepreneurial phases between sales jobs. 3 months of development, 2 weeks of beta testing, and one cease and desist letter from a restaurant chain that didn't appreciate being listed without permission. A $30,000 lesson in why Lawson should stick to selling other people's software. At least the house has appreciated, I shrugged. We bought it for $675,000. It's worth about $125 million now, so you'll get a decent payout. Olivia nodded. Enough for a fresh start if we can sell quickly. Lawson had mentioned liquidating most of it, which I knew meant he'd want cash fast. I twirled my glass, watching the bubbles. He's probably already put a down payment on a bachelor pad in Old Town. Men, Olivia muttered. They're midlife. Crises are so predictable they should come with warning labels. The next morning, I woke on Olivia's guest bed with a champagne headache and 17 missed calls. 16 from Lawson, 1 from Meredith, his mother. I ignored Lawson, but called Meredith back. Despite being my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, Meredith Drake had always been decent to me. Retired elementary school teacher, fond of ceramic angels and judgmental comments disguised as concern, she nevertheless had a sharp mind her son clearly failed to inherit. "Lucille, darling," her voice dripped with rehearsed sympathy when she answered. "Lawson told me everything. I'm just devastated for you both." Translation. Lawson called his mommy immediately after I walked out, spinning whatever victim narrative made him look best. "It's certainly a surprise," I said neutrally. "Not how I expected to celebrate 40. "Well, 40 is a milestone," she said as though that explained everything. "Men just process these transitions differently. When Harold turned 40, he bought that ridiculous convertible." Harold, Lawson's father, had indeed purchased a red Mustang at 40, then promptly left Meredith for his dental hygienist. Like father, like son, I supposed. Though Meredith had gotten the house and half of Harold's dental practice in the settlement, she wasn't as financially naive as Lawson might have expected me to be. "Meredith, I appreciate the call, but I'm still processing everything." Of course. I just wanted to check that you're okay, and to invite you to Sunday dinner. Just because this is happening doesn't mean you're not still family." Sunday dinner at the Drake household had been a monthly obligation. Throughout our marriage, 3 hours of Meredith's dry pot roast and passive-aggressive commentary on everything, from my career. "It's wonderful you're so dedicated to spreadsheets, dear," to my childless state. "Some women just aren't meant for motherhood, I suppose." "That's very kind, but I'll need to pass this time," I said. "Nonsense," she insisted. "I won't take no for an answer. Lawson will be there too. You two need to demonstrate that adults can handle these situations maturely." And that's how, 3 days after being served divorce papers, I found myself sitting across from my soon-to-be ex-husband at his mother's formal dining table, slicing into overcooked beef while Pachelbel's Canon played softly from hidden speakers. "Lucille Lawson," Meredith nodded stiffly as I arrived. He wore his client-meeting navy blazer and had clearly gotten a fresh haircut, strategically styled to cover the thinning spot at his crown. "Lawson," I replied, handing Meredith a bottle of her favorite Chardonnay. "Thanks for having me, Meredith." "Family is family," she declared, ushering us to the table set with her wedding china. Even in transition, the first 20 minutes were excruciating small talk about Meredith's garden club and the new pastor at her Presbyterian church. Then came the ambush. Meredith dabbed her lips with a monogrammed napkin. "Lawson tells me you've agreed to a quick sale of the house." I carefully set down my fork. "We haven't actually discussed specifics yet, but you signed the papers," Lawson interjected. "My lawyer said your signature means you're agreeable to liquidation terms." "I signed acknowledgement of the divorce filing," I corrected. "Asset division is separate, and I'd prefer to have my own lawyer review everything before any agreements." Lawson's jaw tightened. "That will just drag things out unnecessarily." "Actually," I said, taking a deliberate sip of water, "Arizona law requires full financial disclosure and equitable distribution. Rushing could disadvantage both parties." Meredith turned to her son. "Lucille is being perfectly reasonable. This is why you should have discussed things with her before serving those papers." Lawson's face darkened. Mom, we agreed you wouldn't. I'm just saying. Meredith continued, serving more potatoes neither of us wanted. Surprising someone at a birthday dinner isn't the approach your father taught you. Right, because Dad was such a relationship expert, Lawson muttered. The tension crackled like Arizona heat lightning. I suddenly understood why I was really invited. Meredith wasn't supporting me. She was using me as a prop in her ongoing passive-aggressive performance art with her son. I think, I said carefully, what's important now is moving forward respectfully. Lawson and I had 11 years together, and how we handle this transition matters. Exactly, Meredith beamed. And since you don't have children to consider, there's really no reason this can't be amicable. Why? I asked. The Petersons from my church divorced last year and still serve on the community outreach committee together. Lawson checked his Rolex, the one I'd helped him select for his 40th birthday 2 years ago. I've got an early flight tomorrow. San Jose client meeting on a Monday. Meredith frowned. That's not like your company. New account, he said quickly. Very important. West Coast tech startup. I recognized the smooth explanation, the slight shift in his posture. Lawson wasn't going to a client meeting, but I no longer had the right or interest to question his lies. I should go too, I said, standing and folding my napkin. Thank you for dinner, Meredith. It was illuminating. As I left the Drake family home that evening, my phone pinged with an email notification. The subject line made my heart skip. Urgent. Estate of Estelle Barrett. Beneficiary notification. I sat in my car, parked under the jacaranda tree shedding purple blossoms onto the hood, and opened the email. The first line read, This notification is to inform you of your status as primary beneficiary of the estate of Estelle Barrett, recently deceased. My hands trembled as the words blurred through unexpected tears. Aunt Estelle was gone, and apparently she had left me something significant enough to warrant urgent international correspondence. Little did I know, as I drove home through Scottsdale's perfectly manicured streets, that my aunt's final gift would be the ultimate cosmic justice, arriving with timing so perfect it would make even Shakespeare's plot twists seem heavy-handed by comparison. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. My boss, a numbers guy who valued my perfect attendance record, didn't even question it. Take whatever time you need, Lucille. Divorce is essentially emotional bankruptcy with worse paperwork. I sat at my kitchen island, soon to be half Lawson's kitchen island, sipping coffee and staring at the email about Aunt Estelle. I'd need to contact the international law firm handling her estate. Immediately after, I'd need to find my own divorce attorney. The universe was handing me multiple life-altering events with the efficiency of an Amazon distribution center. At 9 a.m. sharp, I called the number in the email. A crisp British accent answered, Harrington Whitfield and Associates, International Estate Law. How may I direct your call? After verifying my identity with enough personal details to commit identity theft, I was connected to James Whitfield himself. Miss Barrett, thank you for your prompt response. First, please accept my condolences on the loss of your aunt. She was a remarkable woman. You knew her personally? I asked, surprised. Indeed. I handled Ms. Barrett's affairs for the past decade. She was uniquely forthright about her intentions. That sounded like Aunt Estelle, the woman who once sent me a Christmas card that read, Religion is mythology with better marketing. Happy solstice, darling. Mr. Whitfield, the email mentioned I'm her primary beneficiary. Correct. Your aunt left explicit instructions. The estate includes her Portuguese property, liquid assets, investment portfolio, and various personal items. The total valuation is approximately $2.8 million USD. I nearly dropped my phone. I'm sorry, did you say $2.8 million? Yes, that's correct. Miss Barrett was quite savvy with her Merck stock options and subsequent investments. The quinta in Portugal has also appreciated considerably. My coffee went cold as Whitfield detailed the inheritance. Aunt Estelle had left everything to me, with small bequests to her housekeeper and gardener. The funds were already being processed through international banking channels, with full transfer expected within 9 business days. There's one more thing, Whitfield added. Your aunt left a letter to be delivered upon execution of the will. It should arrive via courier tomorrow. After hanging up, I sat motionless at my kitchen island. $2.8 million, not lottery winnings, but life-changing money nonetheless. The kind of money that meant freedom. The kind of money that, had it arrived 2 weeks earlier, might have made Lawson reconsider whether I was too old for him. And then it hit me. The timing. The divorce was filed but not finalized. The inheritance was coming through during the legal limbo between marriage and divorce. I called the top divorce attorney in Scottsdale, Vanessa Mitchell, whose billboards along Scottsdale Road showed a formidable woman in a red power suit with the tagline, "Because your ex has a lawyer, too." Vanessa Mitchell's office. How may I direct your call? I need a consultation today. It's urgent. The receptionist paused. Ms. Mitchell is fully booked until next Thursday. Please tell her it concerns a $2.8 million inheritance received during divorce proceedings from Lawson Drake. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Vanessa Mitchell's corner office overlooking Camelback Mountain. She was everything her billboard promised, impeccably dressed, razor-sharp, exuding the confidence of someone who vacations with Supreme Court justices. She leaned forward after I explained my situation. You signed initial divorce papers on June 12th, but no asset division agreements. You learned about your inheritance on June 15th, and the funds will transfer within approximately 9 business days. That's correct? Yes, and when did your aunt pass away? May 24th. 19 days before my husband filed for divorce. Vanessa's perfectly lined lips curved into something between a smile and a predator's assessment of prey. Miss Barrett, are you familiar with the concept of separate property in Arizona law? I nodded. Assets acquired before marriage or through inheritance or gift. Precisely. In Arizona, inheritances are the separate property of the recipient, even if received during marriage. Since your aunt passed away before divorce proceedings began, and you'll receive the funds before the divorce is finalized. She let the implication hang in the air. The inheritance is entirely mine. Lawson has no claim to it. Not a penny, I finished. Now, had you commingled these funds, depositing them into joint accounts, using them to pay off joint debts, or making joint purchases, they could be considered converted to marital property. But as long as you maintain strict separation, I'll open new accounts at a different bank, I promised. Excellent, Vanessa said, making notes in an embossed leather portfolio. Now, regarding the marital assets, the house, investments, retirement accounts, those will still be subject to equitable distribution. But your inheritance remains untouchable. I left Vanessa's office with a $5,000 retainer agreement and something I hadn't expected, a strategic advantage. Lawson didn't know about Aunt Estelle. He didn't know about the $2.8 million, and legally, I wasn't obligated to disclose inheritances as part of marital assets. The next day, a courier delivered a thick cream envelope with Portuguese stamps. Inside was a handwritten letter on Estelle's personalized stationery, dated just 2 months earlier. My dearest Lucille, if you're reading this, I've finally escaped the tedious business of aging. Don't waste time mourning. I've had a spectacular run. I'm leaving you everything because you're the only family member who never asked me for money, while simultaneously being the only one I could trust to manage it properly. The delicious irony. Use this freedom wisely. I spent 58 years building someone else's empire before realizing I could have my own. Don't wait as long as I did. Your aunt who preferred quality wine to mediocre people, Estelle P.S. If that husband of yours is still around, do reconsider. The man has the financial instincts of a carnival goldfish and the depth of a desert puddle. I laughed through my tears. Even from beyond, Aunt Estelle could read situations and people with unerring accuracy. That afternoon, I opened new accounts at Chase Bank, completely separate from the Bank of America accounts Lawson and I had shared. I arranged for the inheritance funds to be transferred directly into these accounts. I contacted HR to redirect my upcoming paychecks and change passwords on every financial website. The pieces were falling into place when my phone rang. "Lucy," Lawson began, using my nickname as if we were still on good terms. "My lawyer mentioned you've retained Vanessa Mitchell. Bit extreme, don't you think? She's known for being aggressive. Is there a question in there somewhere, Lawson?" I asked. He sighed dramatically. "Look, we can keep this simple. Quick house sale, split everything down the middle, done in 30 days. No need for attack dog attorneys." "I prefer having professional guidance," I replied neutrally, especially given the surprise delivery method of our divorce. "Still hung up on that?" His voice carried that patronizing tone he always used when explaining why I shouldn't be upset about whatever thoughtless thing he'd done. It was a symbolic fresh start for both of us. In a Tiffany box on my birthday. Creative, right? Anyway, the real estate agent is coming tomorrow to list the house. I've already moved most of my stuff to a storage unit. "This was news to me," I said internally. "You've been in our house while I've been staying at Olivia's." "Our house," he emphasized. "And yes, it's still half mine until sold. I need my golf clubs and winter clothes. Oh, and I took the Peloton. I figured he wasn't using it anyway. The Peloton I'd used exactly twice before. Realizing I preferred actual outdoor cycling, the 2,195 stationary bike that had been his passive-aggressive commentary on my turning 39. Fine. I thought secretly thrilled he'd taken items of minimal financial value. But no more unannounced visits, and we needed to agree on listing price and terms before anything went on the market. Whatever, Lawson dismissed. My flight to San Jose got changed. Got to run. After hanging up, I drove home, still technically our marital home, and surveyed the situation. Lawson had indeed taken his clothes, golf equipment, and the Peloton, leaving conspicuous empty spaces throughout the house. But he'd left the valuable art we'd collected, the antique desk from his grandfather, and oddly, all the framed photos of us, now turned face down on shelves and tables like tiny tombstones marking our dead relationship. As I stood in my master bedroom, my phone pinged with an email from Ryan Palmer, Lawson's colleague at the software company. The subject line read, "Thought you should see this." The attached photo showed Lawson at what appeared to be a rooftop bar, arm around a young blonde who most definitely wasn't a client. The location tag read San Jose, CA, and the timestamp was yesterday, during his very important client meeting. "Sorry to be the messenger," Ryan's email read, "but after he bragged about how he handled things with you, I figured you deserved the truth." I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the photo. The blonde couldn't be older than 28. Her Instagram handle was visible on the photo tag, Icebrook Fitness. Undoubtedly, the SoulCycle instructor Olivia had jokingly predicted, instead of anger, I felt something unexpected, complete clarity. In that moment, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I opened my laptop and composed an email to Vanessa Mitchell. Need to accelerate proceedings. Also, what's your position on creative, but entirely legal methods of ensuring equitable asset division when one party is acting in bad faith? Her response came within minutes. "I've found that the most devastating weapon in divorce is often the absolute truth, strategically deployed. Come by the office tomorrow at 9. Bring coffee and that photo." Vanessa Mitchell's office became my war room for the next week. We spreadsheet warriors are nothing if not methodical, and divorce strategy, it turns out, is just asset management with better revenge potential. "The photo of Lawson with Ms. SoulCycle is useful," Vanessa explained, "but not in the way you might think. Arizona is a no-fault state. His affair doesn't entitle you to more assets. However, it does give us leverage in negotiations." "How so?" I asked. "Men like your husband care about their image." "The threat of public embarrassment can be more motivating than financial considerations." She tapped her red-tipped nails on her desk. "Also, does his company have a non-fraternization policy?" I thought about it. Yes, actually. He complained about it once when an executive got fired for dating a subordinate. Excellent. Vanessa smiled. Now, about those funds from your aunt. The inheritance cleared on June 23rd, exactly 11 days after Lawson served me divorce papers in that Tiffany box. The timing couldn't have been more perfect if Aunt Estelle had orchestrated it herself from beyond. My separate Chase accounts now held $2,137,460, positioned safely beyond Lawson's reach. Meanwhile, I'd returned to work maintaining perfect normalcy. My co-workers knew about the divorce. News travels fast when the office gossip also happens to be the HR coordinator, but not about the inheritance. I filed reports, attended meetings, and managed my clients' portfolios with the same precision I was now applying to dismantling my marriage. On June 26th, Lawson texted me, "Meeting with my lawyer today. Your offer through Vanessa is unreasonable. The art collection was purchased with my commissions." That was factually incorrect. We'd bought our modest art collection, mostly southwestern landscapes and one abstract piece that looked like a toddler's finger painting but was apparently worth $12,000 using our joint account. I had the receipts, literally. "Check your email," I replied. Just sent all purchase receipts from our joint account. 3 hours later, his lawyer withdrew the objection. The house went on the market on June 30th. Priced at $125 million based on comparable properties in our neighborhood. By July 7th, we had 3 offers, the highest at $128 million. Lawson pushed to accept immediately. "What's the rush?" I asked during our awkward conference call with both lawyers. "The market is hot. We might get a better offer if we wait another week." "I have expenses," Lawson snapped. "Not all of us can crash indefinitely at a friend's condo." Translation: Brooke, the SoulCycle instructor, had expensive taste, and maintaining 2 households, even temporarily, was straining Lawson's finances. "Perfect," I said evenly. "Let's hold for one more weekend of showings. If nothing better comes in, we'll accept the one towards $28 million. Lawson grudgingly agreed, but I could hear the impatience in his voice. He needed liquidity, and he needed it yesterday. Interesting, considering he'd been the one to initiate divorce proceedings. Almost as if he hadn't considered the practical financial implications of splitting our assets. That weekend, a cash offer came in at $132 million with a 15-day close. We accepted, and suddenly the countdown to financial separation was very real. On July 8th, the day we signed the house sale papers, I received a call from the HR department at Nexus Software Solutions, Lawson's employer, Ms. Barrett. "This is Patricia Winters from Nexus HR. I understand you're currently in divorce proceedings with Lawson Drake." "That's correct," I confirmed. Curious where this was going. "We've received some concerning information about Mr. Drake's conduct, and company policy requires we investigate any potential violations involving employees. Would you be willing to answer a few questions?" I hadn't initiated this. Apparently Ryan Palmer had stronger ethics than his colleague, but I certainly wasn't going to impede an HR investigation. "Of course," I said. 2 hours later, my phone exploded with texts from Lawson. "What did you do?" "HR called me in. I'm on administrative leave pending investigation. They mentioned ethical concerns and potential policy violations." "Did you seriously go to my company?" I replied with perfect calm. "I never contacted your HR department. Maybe you should check in with Brooke from San Jose, the one you spent that very important client meeting with." The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, then reappeared before his message finally came through. "This is low even for you. No, Lawson. Low is serving divorce papers in a Tiffany box on someone's 40th birthday. Odd Low is lying about business trips while seeing someone who teaches spin classes for a living. I'm just here watching Karma do her job." He didn't respond, but I could picture him pacing around his sterile apartment, calculating how administrative leave might impact his finances, right as we were nearing the final stage of divorce proceedings. On July 10th, while Lawson was still suspended, the finalized divorce settlement arrived in my inbox. Vanessa had done brilliantly. The house proceeds would be split evenly after paying off the mortgage. Our investment accounts would be divided with future tax implications considered. tilted, of course, in my favor. Lawson would keep his 401k. I'd keep my pension. The art would be auctioned, profits divided equally. And then came the part Lawson didn't yet know. I'd accepted a new position at Meridian Financial Advisors, a boutique firm that had been courting me for months. My start date was August 1st, with a 30% salary bump and equity options. The best part? Since the timing fell after the divorce, every bit of it would be mine alone. The judge finalized everything on July 28th, exactly 46 days after Lawson declared I was too old for him. The house sale closed that same day, proceeds neatly distributed into our separate accounts. By then, Lawson had been formally reprimanded by Nexus for breaching their ethics policy. He kept his job but lost the regional director position that had practically been guaranteed. Brooke, as I later heard, had upgraded, moved on to a personal trainer from Equinox with a yacht and superior deltoids. That evening, I sat in Olivia's guest room, where I'd been staying while searching for a new apartment, when my phone rang. Lawson. It's done, he said flatly. We're officially divorced. Yes, I replied. Congratulations on your freedom from the elderly. He ignored the jab. I just wanted to make sure you're okay financially. I know everything happened quickly, and with the housing market being what it is, well, if you need advice on investments or anything. The sheer audacity of that man, assuming I'd struggle without his financial wisdom, nearly made me laugh. That's thoughtful, I said evenly. But I think I'll manage. Well, if you change your mind. I know this isn't what you wanted, but sometimes life takes unexpected turns. Maybe down the road we could even grab coffee and— Lawson, I interrupted gently. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm actually doing quite well. In fact, I've got some news of my own. Oh? I could hear his curiosity sharpen. New job? That too, I said. But I was actually talking about my Aunt Estelle. You remember her? Lived in Portugal? Sent those philosophical emails at odd hours? Vaguely, he replied. What about her? She passed away in May, left me a little something in her will. That's nice, he said, distracted. A keepsake or something? Or something, I agreed lightly. Her estate was just settled, $2.8 million to be precise. The silence that followed was exquisite. I could practically hear the static of his thoughts short-circuiting. You're joking, he finally managed. Not at all. The funds cleared June 23rd. Entirely separate property, of course. Inheritances aren't subject to division in Arizona. My attorney made sure everything was properly documented. Another long pause. So when I served you the papers, I had no idea. Timing is everything. I finished for him. By the way, I've bought a loft in downtown Scottsdale. Gorgeous views of Camelback Mountain. The perfect spot for someone stepping into her fabulous 40s. I could almost hear his mental arithmetic, the years he'd have to work to accumulate that kind of wealth, and how differently our negotiations might have gone if he'd known just how disastrously he'd miscalculated. I should go, he said finally, his voice tight. Early meeting tomorrow, of course. Best of luck with everything. Lawson. When I ended the call, there was no malice. No sense of gloating. Just the calm satisfaction of a spreadsheet where every figure finally balanced. 6 months can change everything. Half. A year after being deemed too old for my husband at the grand age of 40, I've learned that life after divorce isn't about survival. It's about thriving. Gloriously and unapologetically. My downtown Scottsdale loft has floor-to-ceiling windows framing Camelback Mountain like a living masterpiece. At sunset, the desert light washes everything in gold, including the Italian marble kitchen island, where I sip my morning coffee and review investment portfolios. Not bad for a woman supposedly sliding downhill. Meridian Financial has been everything I'd hoped for. Professionally, I'm flourishing. My client list has grown by 37% since I started. Perhaps because women with substantial assets prefer advisors who don't explain compound interest as if teaching a toddler about colors. My boss recently mentioned partnership track, an achievement that would make me the youngest female partner in the firm's history. Apparently, 40 isn't quite ready for the retirement home after all. Last week, over lunch at the Henry, I ran into Meredith Drake, former mother-in-law and reigning queen of overcooked beef. She was surrounded by her church group, sensible haircuts and designer handbags worth more than their grandkids' college tuition. "Lucille," she exclaimed, with the breathless surprise of someone spotting a ghost at a garden party. "You look wonderful." Translation: "You were supposed to fade into bitter spinsterhood after my son left you." "Meredith, what a surprise." "How are you?" She sighed, all drama. "Lawson's in California now. Did you hear? Regional sales position with a startup. Very promising. Regional sales position is corporate for demoted, but we let him keep his title." The startup part explained why he'd recently listed his Rolex, the one I'd helped him choose for his 40th birthday, on eBay. Apparently, it had been sacrificed to keep up appearances during a cash flow crisis. "That's nice," I said pleasantly. "Please give him my best." "I will," she nodded, then leaned in conspiratorially. "You know, he and that young woman didn't work out. She wanted children, and Lawson, well, he's always been career-focused." Career-focused. That polite euphemism for emotionally unavailable and financially short-sighted. "Children require sacrifice," I replied mildly. "Not everyone's built for that." Her eyes flicked to my designer watch, a small indulgence from my inheritance, and then to my crisp blazer. "You seem to be doing well for yourself." "I am," I smiled. "Life has a funny way of working out exactly as it should." As Meredith drifted back to her friends, I thought about how stories shift depending on who's telling them. In her version, Lawson was still the golden son, conquering California. In reality, according to LinkedIn, which I may or may not check during moments of professional curiosity, he was selling enterprise software for a company with more buzzwords than clients, living in a one-bedroom apartment in Fresno. Meanwhile, Olivia and I had officially become business partners. Using part of my inheritance, we launched Sage Financial Boutique, a firm dedicated to helping women navigate major life transitions: divorce, widowhood, career shifts, inheritance. Those pivotal moments when women suddenly find themselves with money to manage and a chorus of men eager to advise them. Our tagline? Because your wealth deserves better than mansplaining. 3 months in, and we already have a waiting list. Apparently, empathy paired with financial literacy is a market niche long overdue. Last month, Ryan Palmer, Lawson's former colleague, and the one who tipped me off about the SoulCycle affair, joined us as technical advisor. He'd left Nexus after reporting Lawson's ethics breach, unwilling to stay at a firm that merely reprimanded someone for deceiving clients in HR. His integrity made him a perfect fit for our team. Just the other day, Ryan mentioned that Lawson had reached out to him on LinkedIn, suggesting they reconnect, since bygones should be bygones. Ryan left him on red, a modern form of punishment so elegantly passive-aggressive it deserves its own category of revenge. People often ask if I'm dating again. The answer is yes, occasionally, though with the luxurious selectivity of someone who neither needs validation nor financial support. Last week, I had dinner with a cardiologist who reads poetry and makes his own pasta. Next weekend, I'm meeting an architectural engineer for hiking and brunch. Dating in your 40s, it turns out, comes with far fewer games when you bring both financial independence and zero desperation to the table. The most surprising revelation from this entire journey isn't the money or the career success. It's realizing that Lawson's rejection, that Tiffany blue box of divorce papers, was the universe's way of repositioning me for something infinitely better. Sometimes the things that seem designed to break you are, in fact, setting you free. Sometimes a husband telling you, "You're too old," is really the universe whispering that you've simply outgrown the version of life that once fit, and sometimes if the stars are feeling generous, karma arrives right on schedule. Wrapped in perfect timing and a $2.8 million inheritance from a wine-loving aunt who believed in your potential long before you did. Aunt Estelle's letter is framed in my home office now. I read it whenever I need, reminding that life's most spectacular plot twists often enter disguised as disasters. The last time Lawson texted me was 3 weeks ago. Heard about your new business venture. Very impressive. Coffee sometime to catch up? I waited 24 hours before replying. Thank you, but my schedule's quite full these days. Best of luck with everything in Fresno. He read it at 2:17 a.m. and never responded. 40, it turns out, isn't too old for success, happiness, or even a touch of poetic justice. It's simply too old for settling, for mediocre marriages, for small dreams, for lives built around someone else's limitations. If there's a moral to this story, it's simple. The most valuable assets in your portfolio are often invisible until everything else is stripped away. Your resilience, your intelligence, and your capacity to reinvent yourself, and having a rich aunt who thinks your ex-husband has the financial instincts of a carnival goldfish doesn't hurt either.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.